Hey guys, I have read the new issue number one of Isom, and I have a few things to say about that comic. This is going to be a spoiler free review, and I'm simply going to talk about my feelings on the comic and what I know about the characters. Now, I will only speak about the characters as far as their personalities and what I suspect their powers are, things like that. I will not be talking about the overall story uh, for the most part. So, as far as this story goes, how I feel about it is a good story, but it's not a complete story. Um, there's a lot of questions that the comic presents to you that it doesn't answer, and it does answer questions very slowly. I think that's the point. They want you to speculate about things. So as the course of the story goes, the things are answered, but more questions pop up. Um, that's my overall feelings on the story itself. Like a lot of stuff happens, really cool stuff. The artwork's great. I like all the characters, the villains, the good guys, all of them. Um, the story itself is pretty cool. It seems like it's leading up to something interesting, but I don't really know what's going on or what's happening because the comic seems to mention a lot of names that those names never pop on screen, not once. Um, and some things do pop on screen, but we don't know anything about it. You'll see Alpha Core, they'll do something, and they'll mention Alpha Core, and they'll give you a vague description about what Alpha Core is, but you know nothing about anybody in Alpha Core. And I think that seems to be the pattern. A lot of people will pop up, and they'll do things, and but you don't know who they are, what they're about necessarily, except for the main characters of this story, particularly Isom. You get a good feel for him. He has the most character development in this story, and the villain would probably be the second person with the second most amount of character development. I think what's happening is, and this is what Eric July has stated on many occasions, that this is the beginning of the universe. It's an introduction to other things. So basically, uh, it introduces a lot of characters and tries to build upon them as much as they can in 90 pages. It feels like I was assuming it would be a full volume in the sense that it's a full story over the course of the 90 pages, but no, that's not the case. This is more like issue number one of a comic in a 4-part story or a 5-part story. And so the pros of this is you get a lot more story over the, like a lot more information and world building and the plot over a longer period of time. They get to build things instead of a quickly rushed story. It's like DC. DC will be like a complete story in 4 issues, and so this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and now day is saved. You know, and it is a very quickly paced, rushed story. Most of the time when you go through these things, and it's just one volume, right? Whereas this is probably going to be the equivalent of, let's say, in something I can kind of relate to, I guess, or explain it as, Valiant Comics. They have volumes that tell complete stories too, but they also have crossovers. And in their crossover events, like Arbinger Wars, the first Arbinger Wars, it was actually three volumes that told the complete story. Right? You had the Arbinger side, you had the Bloodshot side, and then you had Arbinger Wars. and it told a complete story over the course of the 3 volumes. I think that's more like what this is going to be, a large scale story over the course of multiple volumes. When I say volumes, it's an individual issue. It's issue number 1 is 90 pages, but in my mind, I treat it like it's a volume of a comic because that's how many pages a normal volume is. You're getting a whole volume for 1 issue. But imagine what a volume would be for this. It'd be more like a compendium. Um, let's go and talk about the characters real quick, okay? So we'll start with the flagship character, Isom, okay? At first, I didn't know what to think about Isom, okay? As far as like who he is, what he stands for. He's a businessman. He's pretty intelligent. He's not like tactical. He's not like Batman intelligent. He's more like Luke Cage intelligent. He's very much written like Luke Cage. It's almost like a fusion between who Eric July's persona is on YouTube. Maybe that's exactly how Eric July acts, is how he acts on YouTube, which is cool. He's a cool guy. But, and he's like a fusion of him and Luke Cage in a sense. Yeah. Which, actually, to be honest, at the beginning of the story, all the way up till about halfway through the story, every character seemed to act kind of like they were just, this character is female Eric July, this character is Eric July, this person, yeah, they all kind of seemed to act like him at the first half of the story, and then started to develop into their own individual characters, I think. And maybe it's kind of like like you go to the South, everybody in the South talks the same, they all say y'all, so on and so forth. And maybe that's the case with the people in this story. They're all from essentially the same place, so they all have cultural lingo for that area, and so they all talk similarly. I think that's probably what's up. But so Isom, his powers are never explained over the course of the volume. So I can only give you my best guess on what his powers are, okay? So it leads you to believe that he has super strength and super toughness, kind of like Luke Cage. But then, later on, he does something that he's never done, at least in the last fight. And so it's almost like he's able to maybe develop powers based off of seeing someone else do something, except certain powers he can't do. Because he says he's always tried to fly, but he can't fly. So I think he has the ability to either copy certain powers or copy certain physical abilities. I think that's kind of what I think his ability is. Because someone at one point in time guesses that he has super strength, and he says, no, I don't have super strength. He might have been lying to that person, but that's kind of the thing that I come up with. But yeah, he's pretty smart. He's the character's a businessman. He has a farm that's really well ran, and it's really true to how farms are ran. Like, we grow our products, we raise our products, we sell them to these people at these times. You know, and they even talk about how people, they don't know how their food is produced and so on and so forth. You go to a supermarket, you see meat on the shelf, you don't know that. I mean, you don't realize that was raised on a farm and all the stuff that went into raising that on the farm. It's really interesting when it delves into that kind of stuff. And the introduction of Isom's really cool. Something happens and there he is working out, built, jacked, and he's got a no nonsense kind of attitude, which I really like about the character. The guy very much reminds me of a person who's a hero back home where I'm from, Buford Pusser. Buford Pusser had a no-nonsense kind of attitude as well. That seems to be Isom. But he's not clever, right? At one point in time, he has a long period of time between where he is and where he's going to make a plan. He doesn't make a plan. He's not a plan guy. He's a make it up as you go kind of guy, kind of like Indiana Jones or other characters of the sort, where he gets there and he does stuff and he hopes that it works out, which it doesn't. Never works out. Because if you don't have a plan, you don't know how you're going to get to your goal. You're not going to achieve your goal, at least not unless you bash it like a freaking, you're trying to bust through a wall or something like that to get to an area or something like that. If you hit it enough times, eventually you'll get through the wall. But that seems to be Isom in a nutshell, where he wants to basically drive head forward, and no matter how many times he gets knocked down, he goes straight for it, and eventually he gets what he needs done. I don't know exactly about his suit. They mention this. I'm gonna say something, but there is a character very similar to another character in Invincible, and it's really interesting because the way they portrayed this character is he's got the same job, but he's 360 in personality. It's really interesting. Um, but then, but yeah, that's Isom. His name's Avery, which every time I read his name, I'm like Tex Avery, because he's in Texas and his name is Avery. But Tex Avery, like the cartoons. Maybe it was named after the cartoons. Who knows? Maybe we'll find out in another volume. Um, uh, really, really cool naming. A lot of stuff has there's names and stuff in the background, and it's really interesting. Um, anyway, then there's the villain of the series, which or at least of this issue. He's a very interesting guy. You can tell right off the bat he's very smart, like very, very smart. Whereas Isom is kind of average when it comes to intelligence, and he doesn't take no nonsense kind of thing. This guy is, like, you can tell that he's a leader because of his intelligence, right? He studies people and things around him, things that may seem incredibly average, and he studies them and sees if they and like, it's crazy. And he plans out things, and although he's not afraid to admit like how he got his power or what kind of person he is, he's not afraid of that at all. I'm sure he probably has the cops in his pocket or something like that, because certain things that happen throughout the course of the story, it feels like he's that kind of villain. He's the guy who he knows he can say and do whatever he wants, and nothing's kind of off bounds for him. So that's what I kind of think. I'm not quite sure about what Alpha Core is, but it kind of feels to me like Alpha Core is kind of like they're a team of militarized superheroes, and they essentially, whenever the police aren't able to handle something, they call in Alpha Core, like SWAT, and they solve the problem. I think that's what Alpha Core is. I'm not quite sure what their powers are, but it appears all of them can fly. One of them has some sort of energy whips. The other ones, I'm not quite sure what they do. Um, but that's them. And then there's Yara, which, if you're expecting to get a lot about the character Yara in this issue, you're not. She's a cool character. She had, like I said, a lot of characters kind of act like the same, and she's no different. She and Isom seem to be like the same character, except she's female and he's male. Um, but she can fly. She has energy blast. She's really fast, and I'm not quite sure about her strength, but I think she's pretty strong too. Um, but I don't know where she's from or what she's about. But I suspect she's from space. I don't know. At the beginning of the issue, it said that she's back, and then the police attacked her. Then the Alpha Corps attacked her, and I don't know if she's a villain, if she's a hero. I don't know anything about her. Literally, the story doesn't tell you anything about her. It just presents her. Don't get me wrong. That's really great story writing where you, as the reader, have to find out and put your own opinions on characters together. and decide whether they're the villain or the hero based off of their actions and who they act like, or what they do, right? Yara is being attacked by the police, and then stuff happens, and you know, but you don't know if she's the villain or the hero. She doesn't seem to be attacking people. It just seems like people are attacking her. Um, but yeah, that's that. As soon as she's introduced into the story, she's quickly introduced out of the story, and you just get a Yara will be back kind of thing, kind of like they do in the Marvel movies, where it's like so and so will be back. But which is kind of sad. I wanted more of her. Maybe if they produce an individual comic about her, I can discover more about the character. But she's really cool. Um, then there's a couple other characters in the comic. I don't want to give too much away, but they all seem to have important jobs and things that are very integral to the story. But you never really find out what those things are and what they're about. Um, it's not really a spoiler, but I'm just gonna say it. There's a character called Mama, and I don't know if that's the literal Mama or if that's like a code name Mama. But they all seem to respect her. Everyone seems to respect her. So I don't know what that's about, but I assume it's probably literal Mama. Um, anyway, I really like the issue. All the characters are cool. The story is pretty cool. There's a thing at the end of the book. There's two things actually at the end of the book, other than the code of ethics, um, that are really interesting. And I don't know what that's about or what it's leading to, but it's kind of like a little teaser. So, to my knowledge, I'm gonna assume that other than Isom and Yara, there's going to be a Viking, space Viking kind of comic, and maybe Alpha Core comic. I think I think maybe even a backwards comic. Honestly, a backwards comic would. I don't know how you would do something like that. How you would make a comic about music. Because I had an idea for a superhero who was just a traveling bard, and his music, whenever he played it, it became almost reality. Like you play a metal song, a bridge is collapsing, and he plays a certain type of metal song, and like a kraken starts rising up, keeping the bridge from falling while people drive over it. Stuff like that. But I don't know. Conveying music, something that's heard through picture, is really hard. So it's like I don't know how you would do something like a backwards comic, but the characters will definitely appear at some point, or the people. I mean, they're not characters; they're people. Anyway, so I hope y'all like this. Mostly 99% spoiler free review as far as the story goes, and you know, tell me what y'all think. Hopefully, y'all buy issue number 1. When issue number 2 comes out, I'm gonna definitely order it. I definitely want to get Yara. I don't know if I'm gonna like the Viking comic or not, but it seems really cool as far as one aspect of it. Let's just say a lot of metal is involved now. I'm a huge fan of metal, so we'll find out. Anyway, guys, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Give this video a like, and tell me your comments on the book if you read it yourself. And we'll see you later.